something that I really want to talk to you about is, at one point, you decided after starting your company in Belgium, which was at that point still in full development, by no means were you already a very big, strong, established player. You were still in the grind stage. You decided, I'm gonna go to Silicone Valley. Fuck Belgium, I'm ready. And you did it. You literally went overseas. You showed up by yourself. Please take me through that experience. Like from you arriving to you handing out your first business card, the things that you learned. Please share that.
It was a crazy experience. I mean, that's one of the fun things when you're as an entrepreneur, or basically as somebody who follows his dreams and does what he likes. You're going to do so much crazy stuff. I see what you're doing. You're doing a lot of crazy stuff yourself. So it was crazy. We raised some capital with these two very successful brothers who were businessmen here, somewhere in your area.
Yeah.
We are still thankful to this day that they wanted to do this, and I remember.
Sorry to interrupt you. How? Because I want to know everything. Take me through that initial conversation where you go to these two guys and you're like, all right, so here's the deal. I'm going to go to San Francisco and I need X amount of money, and we're not going to name numbers, but it's quite a substantial amount. How do you even enter that pitch? How do you paint that picture?
Well, it was crazy because Ben had met one of them in a bar. I think it was already morning rather than evening. And they got talking and, hey, what are you doing? And they started talking and they said, well, why don't you come over and tell us your story? Okay, we were trying to go to the US, and actually we hadn't pitched to anyone. And Ben told me, and I said, well, let's go in there and give the pitch that we want to go to the USA. We had a business plan and everything. So we went in there, and I gave the presentation for like 5 minutes. It was a presentation. You know, my presentations, they're vast. So after 5 minutes or so, they were already like fed up with it probably. And they said, stop. Is there a lot more coming, or is there a slide with the financials? I said, yeah, there's a slide with the financials. Okay, show us that. Okay, good. Give us 5 minutes. They just stood up, went out. We were like in the meeting room looking at each other like, what's happening? This is a bit strange. Come back in, and they said, it's fine, we're going to do it for the money that you're asking. We're like, and do you want to see the rest of the plan and everything? Nah, we don't need that. You're like, what is this is crazy. But crazy, good crazy.
Yeah.
So we were like jumping up and down, like, wow, everybody's telling us that pitching is so hard, and we just do one pitch and we get the full money. So it was crazy. We later asked, like, how did that go? And they were like, we saw that you were one of us. Yeah. And they said, we just saw two entrepreneurs there. And that was it. We didn't have to hear your story because, we were not going to do it. We just saw two people that we believed in. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And then I applied for my visa, and I remembered that I could go to collect my visa in Brussels. It was somewhere in September 2013, I guess. I could go and collect my visa in Brussels. I got the message that I could go collect it. I immediately booked the first flight to the US, got my visa, went back home, packed, and the next day I left. That was basically the story. And I got into San Francisco. I had to work. I didn't know anything of getting the right flights. If after 20 times I knew which flights to pick to kind of decrease the effect of the jet lag and the layovers and everything. But the first flight, it was just, it had the most layovers possible. So I was there, I traveled like for 24 hours. It was already dark there, so which is odd because usually when you get, you travel back in time, so it's still light. But I got there, it was already pitch dark. Got a car, drove to the hotel. I was so tired. Got to the hotel finally, to my room. took off my clothes, got in bed, fell fast asleep as you know, I was like a rock. And all of a sudden the fire alarm went out in my room. So the whole hallway was all fire. There was some smoke. I was like, what is this? So I thought it was the middle of the night. Apparently I was only asleep for 15 minutes. I thought I was asleep for hours. We had to go down. I was in my pajamas with a sweater on. And I was standing there in the street, and you had these big, you know, these typical American fire trucks. You had the big ones with the full size ones, like tons of them coming down the street with the ladders and everything. And apparently there was some sort of vending machine that caught on fire on the floor just underneath me. And you know, that was my first night in San Francisco. So it was crazy. And basically everything after that was just as crazy. It was.
But then the next day, so you go to your office. I believe you had a co-working space that you were renting.
Yeah.
So you're surrounded by a bunch of other people who are trying to do startups in the cubicles next to you. Where do you begin then? Like, you're in the US, you're this Belgian dude, you're trying to get clients, you're in the lion's den where it all takes place. You're competing with Americans who are trying to get American people to sign on. So, like, what is your first phone call? Like,
exactly.
How does that?
So that's where I learned the hard way that it's different cultures. Now I understand when some immigrant comes to Belgium that we don't have to treat them so hard. You know, it's nobody was waiting for me there. Nobody knew I was coming. So I got an office. I got a great office. It was the best. It was the highest building at the time in San Francisco. It overlooked the entire bay. It was amazing. So I got that office. But then indeed you open up your laptop and you're like, yeah. Okay, so I have 0 clients. I have 0 people here. You know, my English is what it is. Yeah, okay. So all of a sudden you start to feel quite tiny, and so I started to hustle, man. That's what I did. I just walked in. So we were in a co-working. My co-working was like some sort of fancy co-working. So there were other companies there. So I went door by door and I said, "Hey, we're a marketing agency. Can we build your website?" That's how we did it, and I started to hire somebody, and then through that first hire, I met somebody else who was a bit of a business developer who had a lot of contacts, and then the ball started rolling. But looking back, it's crazy. I made every possible mistake you can make, and I already did it in Belgium. So I just remade all of the mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes that I actually made was I was easy on the cash, so I tried not to burn too much cash, which sounds like a thing that your accountant would like to hear, but it's not the way forward. It's such a competitive culture, so I try to do a lot of things myself, and there I think we're circling back to the efficiency. In a culture where you don't know all of the things, and then even in a culture where you do know the things, you have to work with people who know what they're talking about. If you try to hire somebody and it's in the country and you don't know how to do that, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort in trying to figure that out. Whereas if you pay somebody, okay, it's going to cost you, but it's going to go so much faster and you're going to find much better people. So you win a lot of time there. And that's the trade-off. I think it's, they always say it's time and money, and as an entrepreneur, that's what is an entrepreneur. It's somebody who builds stuff. It's not necessarily the person who lays every single brick. It's the person who says, okay, I'm going to hire a team who does the bricklaying. I'm going to hire an architect, and I know my concept will work. And I'm going to put everything I can into it in order for it to make it work. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that I've made. Of course, it took me years to figure that out, but looking back now, I think that I should have spent more of the money faster to hire better consultants, services, and so forth in order to build it out bigger, probably even hire an external marketing agency to make more awareness, to create more awareness around the fact that we were there. So I probably should have done that. but I was typical European style, a little bit in between.
Conservative. Try to play it safe.
And probably we would have been more, I don't know, but if I would have to do it again, I would do it more in that way. So it was crazy. I was also in one of the best places of the world, San Francisco, the Bay Area. It's my second home to me. I feel very much at ease there. And then, from there, you're in all of these great places. You take the Pacific Coast Highway down to Los Angeles, where you spend a great time there as well. So, it's a...
Give me a story, because I know you saw some crazy stuff up there, man. Like, I know you met some crazy people. Like, there has to be like a cool story about, meeting some guy, going into a business lunch, and I don't know, something happens.
Well, it's where do I begin? In fact, where do I begin? There's lots of small and large anecdotes. I need to think.
What's the first time that you really felt like I've never seen anything like this? Like you're dealing with a person in a meeting, and you're just like, this is beyond my wildest.
Oh yeah, the rudeness that struck me.
The rudeness.
I mean. That's why when I'm saying it's very competitive, and in Europe everybody's polite, and people will sit through an hour of a meeting with you, and if they're not interested, they will still do that. I had meetings there where I pitched to clients, and they were like, "Wow, yeah, that's really cool," and this and that, and then the meeting probably takes only like 15 to 20 minutes, and they say, okay, thank you very much, we know what we can do, we will, and then you never hear from them again. And but I thought we were, also with people on social occasions, you meet people, they tell half of their life to you, you think, we're bonding here, we have been through all of the same things in our youth. That's what I mean with the US is a completely different culture than our culture. So you don't understand it until you have been there. And I don't mean been there on a vacation. That doesn't count. I've been there many times on vacation, never got that feeling. It took me actually 5 to 6 months to figure that out. Something fundamentally is not right here. And to this day, it's still difficult. But I think on the one hand, they're very busy because, it's a make or break society. On the other hand, I think many of them, they are really good at selling themselves, but deep down they're just other human beings. They're not Superman. They just probably feel miserable the next day as well. To me, what I felt often was there's nothing in it for them.
Right.
Once I had this insurance broker who I met at the Hewlett-Packard garage. There's this garage where Hewlett-Packard started this business. Was over there just to see what it was all about. There was this guy on the street, the typical thing, the half of their life story. Wow, we're going to be the best mates. Here's my business card as an insurance broker. So that was once I figured that out. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to call that guy. Nobody calls me, so I'm definitely not going to call him. I got like 10 phone calls from the guy trying to sell me insurance. I was like, okay, now I see how this works. Mm-hmm. So it's all...
What's in it for me? And that's what I always felt in LA. I felt like the premise of every single encounter was, who are you and how could you potentially benefit me?
Yes.
The thing is, sometimes they figured out within 2 minutes that I had nothing to offer them. But I feel like they make it a point to still... It's like they don't want to show you that they're that person. So after 2 minutes, they're like, all right, so you're a Belgian hippie who is trying to find himself after his cancer, and you're not making money, you're fucking around. Okay, cool. I feel like their ego is so big that they want to show you, like, you know what? I'm going to show you that I'm not going to just, walk away. I'm going to give you a good time, and then obviously after that, I'm going to walk away.
Probably because they want to have a good time as well. They're out. It's their night out. You're an interesting person to talk to, so it's an interesting night. But then, you know, once you've shared all of the details, they're like, okay, do I really need to speak to that person again? Because that's what friends do. I mean, you know, after some time, you don't have any new things to tell. You just know each other and you hang out together. You know, they're like, okay, why would I hang out with this guy? I have enough people where I can hang out. We spend our entire youth together. So, okay, those are the guys I hang out with. You are somebody I hang out with at the bar. I have a fun evening. I have a cool story. But there's nothing in it for me. So, yeah, it was fun. But they do walk out in conversations. I had that many times.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I had to sell something, so...
Well, I guess that's a little bit different because, yeah.
But, you know, as soon as they're not interested, it's done. It's over. They don't waste any time on that. It's completely different than here in Belgium. Everybody will... We say Belgian people are rude. Yeah, I think again.
Do you need help making better decisions in your life? Are you lacking self-confidence and motivation to get things done? Hire me today and get a direct daily line of communication with me through video chat and audio messages. I operate on a week-to-week basis, so no long-term investment is required. 7 straight days of Viking advice will get you right on track. Email me at lorenz.dries@gmail.com and change your reality. I'm ready whenever you are. See you soon.